like that. So that's what I use for my introduction. Then the body 1 paragraph and body 2 paragraph. And the third one, so they are all similar, I think. If you just listen to them very well and you follow the pattern, I think you would do well. And also stay on topic. That's very key. Some people just get lost in their trying to explain and they go out of topic, like what was asked of you. You start talking about something else entirely different. So that can put off the examiner, I believe. So that too, and staying on time. I feel the tax 1 is easier for everybody. Almost everybody has come to write an informal letter one time or the other. It's just like telling your friend a story, I guess. And the formal letter, just writing general, like the normal thing we're all. So I didn't feel the tax 1 was much of an issue. Like for my test, I did that under like 20 minutes. I was done with my tax 1. Yeah. So I focused on my tax 2 more. And yes, also your numbering, make sure you always write above 20. I always wrote like 300 and something. I even felt it was too much, but just make sure it makes sense, and always put an example for your body paragraph. Each body paragraph, there should be an example for it. And I think you're going to be good to go. That's my belief. So then the speaking, I use Jay's, what's it called? Jay's tip. That was what I used for my speaking. It was 1 week. It was the week I got my date that I started to watch videos about it. And what I did was, there's this thing that Liz also has on her website for speaking, like different topics. So what I did was I downloaded the topic thingy and I gave my sister, so she would just ask me the questions and I talk back. At first, when I was doing my speaking, I was quite I was jittery, I think. I was making mistakes. I was tense, probably because I felt, okay, this is an examination setting. But it just really is you just talking like you're talking to a friend, someone that you haven't met in a long time, and you're trying to explain to the person. I sincerely think I should have done better on my speaking, but I got 7.5. It's also good enough. I can't complain. But I wasn't as nervous as I initially did during my practice time. I was calmer. So it's also, I think that calmness is a very big thing. You being calm before you enter it. But I know it can be overwhelming, but you just letting go and being what's it called, calm, that would also help in a long way. Yeah. So, and the ultimate thing is prayer, and putting everything in God's hands, I guess. So that's something that will help you when giving someone just asked, when giving an example in your body paragraphs, should it be personal example or a personal example will make it general? So it depends on the kind of question the topic is. So there were times when, I think there was one time I wrote about for my exam. It depends on the topic, really. I could say that I have an uncle that saw something, and during his time in office, so you can actually make it personal. It's like the instruction given. They say you can make it personal or a relevant example, if I remember correctly. I think that was something they said. So it depends on the topic, really. But I think something like, you shouldn't state a name. It shouldn't be too specific. You could say a friend or my uncle or something like that. Then, but what I also think I prefer is you just generalizing it and saying something like what's it called? Something that was reported by BBC News. Something that was reported by BBC News was the fact there was a report by the Nigerian, by a famous reporter, something funny, something that is general but not so specific, and mostly something you're forming by yourself. Is not, it doesn't have to be real or something you've heard about. It's just make it seem as real as possible with the way you construct the sentence. I don't know why I've just blanked out right now. I can't make out any sentence. But I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Just try to be general and form the sentence. You could make it either way, depending on the question. So someone just asks, oh, okay, this is to me privately. But I think, okay, I can just share it. The person said, how did I score? What did I score in each module? So I think Jay pasted it initially when I started, and I started with I got an 8.5 for my overall band score, 9 for my reading, listening I had 8.5, speaking I had 7.5, and my writing I had 8.0. So I don't know if anybody has any other question, and I hope I've covered it enough. So when reading, what's your maximum score before you know you're ready for the exam? So the thing can be quite tricky. You can't ever really be sure. The last test I did before I wrote my exam, I think that was I should have my book, my notes here. Yes. So this is my Cambridge. I don't know if you can see it, but my Cambridge 9 reading, I had a 33/40. The one before it, I had 40/40. So the thing is you can't ever really know what you are going to get. It can just fall your hand at any second, if you understand what I mean. So there are times when I have 35, times I have 39. It's a dicey situation. And I think because you're not in the exam setting, so you can't really, everything is different when you are sitting down. Everywhere is totally quiet. But when you're at home, you have distractions, and like listening, you just miss, maybe someone walks in, you just miss something. So that can make your scoring vary. But I feel like if you have a multiple of the 38, 39s, you don't even have to have a 40/40 before you know you're ready. But if you have like a 37, 38, 39, I think you are good to go. But also, even if you have a 33, 30, 34, it doesn't mean you are not ready. That's what I think you should know. Because if I had followed the fact that I had 33/40 2 days before the exam, would that have been one day, the day before? It doesn't mean that I wouldn't pass it. After I had a 9.0 in my reading. So it's just really tricky, you get? So someone said, please, is it best to use a biro or pencil? Definitely a pencil, please. Even when I was practicing, I practiced throughout with a pencil. I hope everybody can hear me. Someone is talking quite loudly. So I used the pencil throughout because I used it to get familiar with nobody likes to use a pencil to write, but I used it to be calm, to learn. I used pencil while learning. So I think you should use a pencil throughout. I think for the exam, it's also mandatory if you're doing a paper-based for you to use a pencil. So you should use a pencil. So I'm getting some questions again. Please, before you go, can you break down true, false, not given? Someone said, okay, I'm sorry. Please, is it best? Okay, I'm very okay. What is the first step before practicing writing? What is the first step? Is knowing the formats really to follow and following it to the T. Because before I started writing, I was also scared of starting to write my essays. But once I think I watched my videos, my J videos very well, and um I I understood what is expected of me. Like I wrote once in my book, I said essay structure, you follow the introduction and conclusion, rewrite your general statement for your sentence one, briefly mention the first and second opinion, and you give your overall opinion in the third sentence. Then for the paragraph 1 and 2, restate opinion 1. For the first sentence, you give a reason or reasons, then you give example, and you conclude opinion 1 and 2. Opinion 1. So I just followed this pattern when after I read it. Then I think Jay used to do these live classes where um where where they do it gives you like a topic. If you do the exercise, it follows you to do them. I'm not sure you're familiar with it. I also use their websites. They give me an alert. They alert me when they're about to start their live classes, their live sessions. So I just join it. They have free live sessions. So that was what I did, where it will ask you to write the first, I think it was Alex that did more of the live classes. Then it will ask you to do the introduction, then it will show you his own introduction, something like that. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but their live classes were quite helpful. So someone else says I should break down true false not given. So this true false not given and yes no not given, they were quite tricky for me also, especially the not given and the false. So there were times when I mix them up. It's normal. It's very tricky. But for the not given, I just feel their answers are always in the paragraph. If they don't say it straight, like the sentence isn't, you can't find it in the passage, it is not given. And if like they say this person's name did something, and in the paragraph it is another person's name, definitely is false. The truths are always straight up there, and they tend to paraphrase a lot. So you have to also know your vocabulary. How good you have to know your words. You have to know what this word. I think they paraphrase a lot, so you have to know the synonyms of words. That would also help. I don't know if that helps in any way. So, but I think that was always also a very big issue. I was quite glad I didn't have a true false not given for my test, because I was scared for that. There are times you could be lucky you wouldn't have that. It won't be among your questions. So finger crossed and praying you don't have it. So does your appearance matter, especially the speaking test? I don't think it does. I don't think so. But generally just look as decent. I wore a jeans trouser and a top. You just look as decent as you can. You don't have to go all formal, but just be presentable, I think. Is that just normally you're going to an exam setting? Just be presentable. And please, should we write in capitals? Yes, I wrote all my answers in capitals. My practice tests were all in capital letters also, to get familiar with how I do it. So you should do that. Does the appearance? So I think, did you have to print out the soft copies for you to practice at home? Oh no, I did not. I didn't use any soft copy. Sorry, I didn't use any soft copy. I didn't print out any soft copy. I used my phone throughout. I only just, yes, that was what I used, my phone. And I kept writing. How do you count in the writing test? So I used the row, count each row method, whereby um I know from my handwriting that each row I have about 8 to 9 sentence per row when I write because of my writing. So I just count columns. Yes, I just count the columns and multiply it by 8 or 9. Then there are times when it goes to 10 or 12. I think for the IELTS, yes. Well, for my own part two, I had a lot of time after writing my task two during the exam, and I counted them one after the other. I know that is just weird, but I actually counted each word, and I think my stuff was 320 something, but I had enough time after I reread and corrected. So that was what I did. But another way to do it is for you to actually count them, the numbers that you have in a row, average number that you think is in everything, and you multiply by the number, the line, the columns, and that will give you an average of what you've written. With your speaking model, where you asked a question you felt lost or had no idea about, if so, how did you manage it? Oh no, I did not actually have a question where I blanked out and I was paused. That's why I think I felt I should have gotten a higher mark, but my questions were quite relatable. I know some people would have some questions that they've not heard about, so it was something I could quickly imagine. Like my tax too, they asked me about something I've learned in the past that I felt was a waste of time. So it was and I used the method that Jay taught, whereby you would say something that was in the past, recently, and in the future. Although my time was up before I could get to the future. I only talked about two things. I talked about how in a long time ago I learned how to sew, but I felt it was a waste of time because I didn't continue it. And recently I learned how to bake. I know I learned how to sing, but it was a waste of time because I didn't have the talent for it. So I just built a story around it in my head, and the guy stopped me before I could continue. So I think it's also your imagination skills, just being imaginative, and that you're telling a story. That also helps. But I didn't exactly, I was not quiet, really, like paused. Sometimes they kind of gesture you like, yeah, go on, you are going to good to go. It's also about your examiner. Think you have to pray for that too. The person that encourages you with a nod, and when you're talking to someone and they're ignoring you, can be quite dampening your spirit. So if you have someone that like the examiner cheered me on before I started, he was cracking a joke, made me calm, and so that also helped. I wasn't as nervous because he created a rapport between us before we started. So also I think that's also key. So somebody else said, how many hours do you practice a day? Do you read at midnight? No, I do not read at midnight. I never read at night, but I just made sure I did at least one practice test a day, either the reading, the listening. At least I did.
Please, I want to remind that we have 2 minutes to remain that meeting because the Zoom app has only 40 minutes to be here. So time is our, our enemy. So it will be finished automatically. It would be better
Yeah.
if we congratulate her with her success so we can ask questions in Telegram if we want. So anything to tell?
Yes, thank you so much. I really learned a lot, and I
Thank you,
think
Ma.
I'm actually walking in the right step. Yes,
You encourage
so I wish you
everyone.
success. Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Yeah.
All right. So someone asked about this thing. If I write in capital letter is the reading and the listening I was talking about, not for your letter writing. Just write as legible as you can for your writing. Yes. So thank you very much,
Thank
everybody,
you so
and I
much.
really
Have a
wish
good day.
you all the best.
Thank you
Yes.
for the
Wish
Thank
class.
everybody
you,
the best.
Balkis. Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
J.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
You
you,
all
people.
welcome. We all
Bye.
welcome. Yes. See you.
Bye.
See you.